I moved to Staten Island last year. It had cheap rent, quiet neighborhood, a perfect place to start fresh. That's when I first heard about Willowbrook. It was an old state-run school for disabled kids, which has been abandoned for decades. The locals called it haunted, said no one who went inside ever stayed for long. But it wasn't ghosts that made people run. It was something much worse. And I bet that you guys don't want to know the real answer, because it's so disturbing and horrific that you will be having a hard time in sleeping tonight. Alright, it was raining that day when I came home from my 6-hour-long shift at Wendy's. I was scrolling some TikToks on my phone, and that's when I saw a video of a man. He was walking past some ruins, and for some reason, that location, it looked familiar to me, and then I realized it was the same ruins that come on the way from my apartment to Wendy's. But that guy, he walked past that ruins and reached an abandoned school. The video got weirder. The guy was inside the Willowbrook, and there was something wrong, like the air felt heavy by just watching it. The walls were covered in graffiti, but there were also these marks, deep scratches, like something had been clawing at the walls. And then he started hearing things. These were strange sounds, kids' voices, laughing, crying, screaming. But the worst part, he found this room. It was full of old hospital beds, rusted metal frames, and restraints, like the kind they used to tie people down with. And on the floor, there were toys, kids' toys, but they weren't just lying there. They were arranged, like someone or something had been playing with them. And then the video ended. No explanation, no thanks for watching, just black screen, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I mean, how could I? It was right there in my neighborhood. So I did something stupid. I went to the school, and it was worse in person. The building loomed over me, and its broken windows were staring like empty eye sockets. The air was thick, like it didn't want me there, and the closer I got, the more I felt watched. I didn't go inside, not that night, but I went back, and that's when things got really messed up. But this time I came prepared. A flashlight, phone, and a pocket knife I stole from my roommate's drawer. Don't judge me, I was scared. This time, the school looked even worse up close. The building was falling apart. Chunks of the roof were missing, and the windows were just gaping holes, like the place was staring right through me. The front doors were chained shut, but one of them was slightly open, just enough for someone to squeeze through. And yeah, I squeezed, and inside it was dark, and it smelled like mold and decay, and my flashlight revealed some graffiti on the walls. These were names, dates, and warnings like "Get out," and they're still here. And then I found a classroom. The desks were overturned, and the chalkboard was covered in dust. But what stood out were the drawings. These were strange, shadowy figures, faceless people, and words like "help." And further down the hall, I found a dormitory. It contained rows of rusted metal beds. Some of these beds were covered with stained mattresses. It kinda looked like blood, and it was horrifying. Then I heard it. It was a strange laughter. And then suddenly from nowhere, kids' laughter started echoing through the room. My flashlight started flickering, and I saw a shadow move, and I ran out of there as fast as I could. After that visit, I couldn't stop thinking about Willowbrook. I started researching its history, and what I found was worse than I could have imagined. Well, Willowbrook was supposed to be a school, a place of care, but it became a nightmare. It became so overcrowded and underfunded that the children were left in filthy conditions, tied to beds, and neglected. And some of these kids were even subjected to really bad medical experiments, and over time it turned into a prison for thousands of kids, sick, disabled, unwanted. It all started in the 1950s, when a doctor named Saul Krugman infected the children with hepatitis to study the disease. Parents weren't aware of these kinds of experiments that were being performed on their kids. And the kids couldn't consent. They were treated like rats from a lab. For years, this was just how things were. Until one day, somebody snuck in with a camera, and what they filmed was really horrifying. There were kids crawling on the floor with no clothes, covered in their own filth. Rooms were packed so tight there wasn't even space to lie down. Some of these kids were tied to beds, while others were locked in dark rooms for days. The footage went public, and Willowbrook was forced to shut down, and the doctors escaped. The more I read, the more I understood why the school felt so heavy, so wrong. It wasn't just abandoned, it was a place of suffering, and that suffering, it didn't just go away. I went back to Willowbrook, this time with a camera. I wanted to document what I saw, to tell the story of the kids who suffered there. The school felt different this time, colder, heavier, like it didn't want me there. I found more rooms, offices with old files, medical equipment covered in dust, and more drawings on the walls. In one room, I found a stack of papers, medical records, names, dates, and notes about experiments. My hands shook as I flipped through them. These were real kids, real lives destroyed. And then I heard it again, laughter. But this time, it was followed by crying. I turned my camera toward the sound, and the screen flickered. When it cleared, I saw something in the corner of the room, a shadow shaped like a child. I didn't stay long after that, but as I left, I felt something, a hand on my shoulder. I turned around, but no one was there. I never went back to Willowbrook after that, but it stayed with me. The laughter, the crying, the shadow. It haunted my dreams. I shared my footage online, and it went viral. People were horrified by the history of Willowbrook, but some didn't believe me. They said the shadow was fake, the laughter edited, but I know what I saw, what I felt. Willowbrook isn't just a building. It's a reminder of the atrocities that happened there, the kids who suffered, the lives that were destroyed. They deserve to be remembered. I still live in Staten Island, but I avoid that part of town. Sometimes I hear laughter outside my window, and I wonder, did I really escape Willowbrook, or did it follow me home? A week later, a former staff member of the state reached out to me. We met, and he gave me a key, and he said, "The truth is in the basement." I went back for the third time, and that key unlocked a hidden door. In the basement, I found a box, photos, notes, and videotapes. I didn't watch them, and as I left, I heard laughter, but it wasn't coming from the school. It was coming from the tapes. I took the box home, but haven't opened it, because I don't want to. Sometimes I hear laughter, and I wonder what is exactly on those tapes.